Welcome back to Cine Recaps. Today, I'll be walking you through a chilling home invasion thriller where a simple robbery turns into a terrifying nightmare. Spoilers ahead. Watch carefully.
Tell me what's going on!
No sleep.
In the English countryside, three buddies are sitting in a car, smoking while keeping an eye on a house in the distance. At the front door, Dr. Richard is saying goodbye to a few patients. Terry tells his friends that Richard takes his wife out to dinner every Friday, giving them the perfect chance to rob the place while they're gone. As they wait, Mary shows up and scolds her boyfriend Nathan for taking her car when she needs it for work. They start arguing, but stop when Terry notices the couple finally leaving the house. Nathan pulls up right in front, and Mary follows on her bike. When she gets a call from work, Nathan says they'll be finished in 20 minutes, so Mary tells her boss she'll be there in an hour. After agreeing to wait outside, the guys hop over the fence, but Terry lands badly and starts limping. Gaz smashes the glass on the door, and Terry snaps at him, saying there's a spare key hidden in a flower pot. Inside, Gaz asks where the safe is, but Terry doesn't know. His mom works there as a cleaner and shared some details about the house, but never the safe's location. Faye gets furious. Gaz opens the broom closet and throws things everywhere in a fit, so Terry quickly puts everything back. Still, Gaz keeps breaking stuff in other rooms. Terry gets annoyed since they promised not to damage anything, and Nathan distracts him by pointing out he lost one of his earrings. Gaz takes medicine from the doctor's cabinet and jewelry from the wife's room, and also wrecks some dollhouses in a room labeled Kate. Nathan grabs food from the fridge while Terry heads to the basement, where he finally finds the safe. He calls the others, but Gaz gets mad again. Terry's mom said the safe had an electronic code, so Gaz brought tools, but it turns out the safe has a dial lock, and none of them know how to open it. Outside, Mary gets tired of waiting and starts honking the horn. She can't leave because Gaz has the keys, so she tries calling Nathan, but he ignores it. In the basement, Nathan tries opening the safe with a drill and then a hammer, but nothing works. Terry uses a stethoscope while turning the dial, but still no luck. Nathan finally answers Mary's call when she says she has to go, then hangs up. Carrie agrees they should leave, which makes Nathan panic. Gaz comes up with a plan to wait for the owners to return and force them to reveal the code. When Mary calls again, Nathan declines it. It's already dark outside, and Mary keeps getting calls from work. She honks and yells Nathan's name, but he ignores her while watching TV with Gaz. Terry offers to drive her, but Gaz stops him, thinking he's trying to run off. Eventually, Nathan gets fed up with the noise, goes to the door, and tells Mary he just needs 5 more minutes, convincing her to come in. After taking her phone, he pushes her onto the table and they start fooling around. While looking around, Gaz finds a photo of a young girl. Carrie explains it's the owner's daughter, Kate, who died years ago. The moment is cut short when Mary tells Nathan she's pregnant, but he isn't worried, thinking the money from the robbery will be enough to raise a child. Suddenly, they hear a sound outside and realize the owners are back. The guys pull stockings over their heads and make Mary do the same. As soon as the couple enters, Nathan and Gaz attack them. During the struggle, Ellen falls, and shards from a broken vase cut her hand. Richard tries to help, but the guys overpower them and drag them into the living room. A desperate Richard says they can take anything, but asks to treat Ellen's injury first. Mary brings a first aid kit and a glass of water. Then she cleans and bandages the wound by following Richard's instructions. Gaz tosses over some stockings and makes Mary tie Ellen's hands. When Gaz asks about the money, Richard hands over his wallet and mentions some cash stashed in the kitchen, which Terry goes to grab. The guys then ask about the safe, and Richard acts like there isn't one, so the couple gets dragged down to the basement. Mary doesn't like this plan at all, and Nathan tells her to deal with it because he's doing it for the baby. Nathan keeps yelling at Richard for the combination, but Richard just calls out his behavior, so Nathan slaps him. Gaz brings his cigarette close to Ellen's face, but Nathan stops him before he can burn her. Then Gaz hands Nathan a box cutter and tells him to hurt Richard until he gives up the code. Mary finally reaches her limit and heads upstairs, so Gaz follows her. After pulling off the stockings, Mary grabs the landline and hides in the bathroom to call emergency services. Unfortunately, Gaz kicks the door open and drags her out by the hair. After ripping the phone outlet from the wall, Gaz uses his stockings to tie Mary's hands and smashes her head against a mirror, accusing her of trying to trap Nathan with a baby. Down in the basement, the guys hear all the screaming, and Richard tells them they shouldn't let Gaz control them. He also calls Nathan and Terry by name, revealing he used to be their doctor when they were kids. Richard knows their families and watched them grow up as close friends, but he believes an outsider like Gaz is ruining their lives. Nathan snaps and yells at him again, but Terry removes his stockings and agrees with Richard, saying they should leave. An angry Nathan shoves him against the wall and, after taking off his own stockings, tells his friend to keep his mouth shut. At that moment, Gaz returns with Mary and tells the others she tried to call the police. Nathan points the box cutter at Ellen's neck and demands the code. When Richard doesn't respond, Gaz whispers something to Nathan, making him threaten to cut off Ellen's finger. Since Richard still refuses to cooperate, Gaz pulls out a gun and points it at him while telling Nathan to do it. After hesitating, Nathan backs off and tells Gaz to do it himself. They start arguing, and Gaz points the gun at Nathan, forcing him to go through with it. Nathan begs Richard for the code as he starts slicing Ellen's finger, but at the last second, he turns and slashes Gaz's arm instead, making him drop the gun. Gaz grabs Nathan and headbutts him, and they fall to the floor fighting. Nathan tries to stab Gaz with the box cutter, but Gaz overpowers him and stabs him first. Richard asks to be untied so he can help Nathan, but Gaz mocks him while wrapping his own arm with a rag and some tape. He threatens to let Nathan die unless the doctor gives him the code, so Richard finally gives him the numbers. While Gaz tries the code on the safe, Richard signals Terry for help, but Terry is having a breakdown. Soon, Gaz realizes the code is fake, so Richard pretends he mixed up 21 and 22 and tells him to try again. While Gaz is distracted, Mary starts working on freeing herself. The second code is wrong too, so Gaz ties Ellen to a wooden beam with tape. Then he turns on an electric saw and tries to attack her, only to realize the cable isn't long enough. As he moves it to another outlet, Mary finally gets free and hits Gaz on the head with a hammer, killing him instantly. Afterward, Mary frees Richard and notices the basement connects to the garage. There's a van there, so she wants to move Nathan to take him to the hospital. However, Richard pulls out a hidden gun and says nobody is leaving. Mary is terrified until Richard explains that the hospital is too far away and Nathan won't survive the trip, so he'll treat him while they wait for help. While Terry and Mary take Nathan upstairs, Richard grabs the car keys from Gaz's body and frees his wife. In the doctor's office, Richard treats Ellen's finger first, and she says the gang got what they deserved. Then Richard removes the blade from Nathan's body and uses forceps to take out a piece stuck inside the wound. He explains the blade missed vital organs, so Nathan has a good chance of surviving. Since Richard needs space to work, he asks Ellen, Mary, and Terry to wait outside. While Ellen starts cleaning up, Mary has a breakdown. Terry tries to comfort her, but suddenly calls her beautiful and attempts to kiss her. Mary immediately pulls away and scolds him for telling the others about the safe. She also believes Terry would have left Nathan behind if she hadn't been there. She begins throwing out insults, pointing out that her twin sister Jane left because Terry's a joke and never truly loved him. After that, Mary heads into the living room and tries to open a strange box, but Ellen stops her. Next, Mary tries to go into the doctor's office. Richard tells her she shouldn't, but she pushes her way in anyway. Nathan is asleep, and Richard explains that he had to sedate him while stitching him up. Mary touches Nathan's body and thinks it feels too cold, but Richard assures her it's normal. Then he walks over to the landline and calls for an ambulance. However, Mary notices the outlet is broken, meaning Richard is lying. Suddenly, Mary feels sick and throws up in the sink. Richard says he has medicine to help her, and when he turns around, Mary searches Nathan's pockets for her phone, but they're empty. When Richard brings her the medicine, Mary ignores him and goes back to the living room, where she finds Ellen giving Terry an injection for his limp. A terrified Mary tries to leave, but all the doors are locked. Ellen appears behind her and yells at her for not taking her shoes off, calling her Kate before slapping her. Richard rushes over to calm Ellen down, revealing she has a memory disorder. While Richard takes Ellen away, Mary looks for Terry and finds him happily snacking and watching TV. She tells him they need to leave and asks for his phone, but he says he gave it to Ellen. Mary starts scolding him, but they're interrupted by the elderly couple inviting them to have tea. A tired Mary wants to smoke, but Ellen won't allow it. So Mary says she'll smoke outside and tries to open another door, but this one is locked too. Richard makes Mary sit down by describing all the horrible things that can happen to an unborn baby. When a nasty bug appears on the table, Ellen kills it with her hand. Then Richard shows them a photo of their deceased daughter, Kate, and shares stories from her childhood. Ellen is about to drink her tea, but Richard stops her and swaps her cup with Mary's. Afterward, Richard pulls out a scrapbook Ellen made to collect newspaper articles about teenage girls who disappeared in the area, including Mary's twin sister Jane. He claims the scrapbook is a tribute to them. When Terry is about to drink his milk, Mary stops him and asks Richard for her phone. Richard pretends he doesn't know what she's talking about, so she yells at him while listing all the things he's lied about. When the couple tells her to calm down and drink her tea, A furious Mary pushes everything off the table and grabs a knife, demanding they open the door. Richard reaches for her hand and easily disarms her. Then he drags her by the hair to the cupboard under the stairs and locks her inside. He asks Terry to watch her while he puts Ellen to bed. Mary keeps banging on the door and begging Terry to let her out. Terry yells at her for dating Nathan, saying he doesn't love her and only uses her. A crying Mary tells him Nathan is dead, but Terry ignores her. In the bedroom, Ellen has a breakdown and insists Mary needs to be punished. Richard says he'll do it, but Ellen convinces him she can help. At that moment, Terry notices his legs have gone numb and thinks Ellen accidentally gave him too much medicine. Mary insults him for not wanting to accept that Ellen did it on purpose, causing Terry to snap and yell at her before breaking down in tears. When Mary apologizes and asks him to work together, Terry misunderstands together as in a couple and starts talking to her as if she were Jane. A desperate Mary plays along, and Terry opens the door, thinking he'll see his old girlfriend again. But Mary rushes to grab the knife and head upstairs. With the help of a cane, Terry slowly manages to walk and takes a look at Nathan by peeking through the keyhole. His friend isn't moving, and a terrified Terry walks away while telling himself Nathan is just sleeping. Then he goes upstairs and enters Kate's room, where he finds Mary tying together bedsheets at the window. Terry still thinks she's Jane and accuses her of leaving him, but Mary insists she was about to get him so they could escape together. When Terry tries to kiss her, she steps back, and they fall onto the bed, giving her the chance to push him off. Suddenly, a gas can is tossed into the room, and a metal sheet drops down to block the window. Mary helps Terry out of the room as they struggle to breathe. As they move downstairs, they notice all the windows are being sealed and smoke filling the house. Terry trips and rolls down the stairs, so Mary rushes to help him. He insists they need to help the elderly couple too, clearly still in denial. At that moment, Ellen runs into the living room, so Mary follows her while blindly swinging her knife around. Ellen keeps sneaking up behind her and manages to whip her several times, even smashing a vase across her back. When Mary falls, Ellen whips her again. Now close enough, Mary takes her down by throwing a vase at her. Then Mary steals Ellen's mask and puts it on, only for Ellen to stab her arm with an injection while Richard drags Terry away. Mary takes Ellen into the kitchen and ties her to the oven. She repeatedly slaps her while demanding to know what was in the syringe, and Ellen's teeth fall out as she laughs. Suddenly, Richard appears behind Mary and removes the mask before choking her. Mary bites his hand and kicks him in the groin before grabbing the mask again. However, Richard smashes a plate over her head. Then Mary fights back by hitting him with a pan and pushing him out of the kitchen, catching his hand in the door. She slams it again and again until he loses a finger. Unfortunately, Richard breaks the door window and takes the mask from Mary, who quickly pushes a table against the door to block it. She grabs a knife and threatens to kill Ellen as she starts to feel dizzy from the injection. Richard promises he'll bring Terry and the keys, but wants proof that Ellen is alive, so he sings to make her sing back. Terry and the keys are dropped outside the kitchen door, so Mary pulls them in and finally opens the basement door. She drags Terry downstairs and pushes him into the back of the van before jumping into the driver's seat. When she opens the garage door, she finds Ellen and Richard blocking the way. She starts the van intending to run them over, but at that moment, Terry shoots her with the gun Richard gave him. As Mary slowly bleeds out, Richard mocks her for not behaving. Then he and Ellen put Terry into a wheelchair and announce he deserves a reward. Richard finally opens the safe, revealing it's actually a door to a secret bunker. Inside, Jane is chained to a bed. It turns out that after Kate's death, Ellen and Richard had been kidnapping girls to replace their daughter. They forced them to wear Kate's clothes and call themselves by Kate's name. If a girl didn't cooperate, she was killed and replaced by another. Jane was the last one because she had been behaving. As a reward for helping the couple, Terry is locked inside the bunker with Jane. A week later, Terry's mother, Jean, finishes cleaning the house without suspecting anything. She doesn't notice her son's earring on the floor because she steps on it. In the garden, the couple plants new bushes to hide the buried bodies. On her way out, Jean tells her employer she's been worried because her son is missing. Ellen and Richard tell her not to worry because young people sometimes just like to run away.
Thank you, Mrs. Huggins.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening. And don't worry.
Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.